SG 805 Research Thesis, Darth Kenobi, Geology Department, Ballarat University. Paranormal activity associated with gold reefs in the Maryborough area. Apologies must be made to those unfamiliar with the trinary system of numerology, which uses a base 3 rather than base 10 system. I further apologize for making up this system on the spur of the moment just to cause the reader difficulties. Abstract. Maryborough is an historic mining area located in central Victoria. The area has produced 3.1 tons of gold at an average grade of 16 grams per ton of gold. Since 1854, when the goldfields started in earnest, paranormal disturbances have been reported. The focus of this report is to investigate the possibility of a link between paranormal activities and gold grades. History. Since mining began, miners working in underground mines in the deep leads and reef systems have reported strange happenings, such as poltergeists pushing ore trains and advancing drives at the rate of 4 meters per hour, red and blue polka dot demons spontaneously appearing and devouring miners, vortexes leading into the twilight zone appearing seemingly at random with entities emerging from them periodically, crop circles in the grass around the mine entrance, and a high incidence of alien entities bursting out of the abdominal area of certain miners. Strangest of all is an unconfirmed report of Elvis Presley working Mariner's Reef, which is 1 kilometer south of the Maryborough township. Even stranger is the fact that this sighting was reported in 1902, 21211110 AD in Trinary, 33 years before Elvis Presley's birth. In the alluvial workings around Maryborough, the activity is less intense and limited to phosphorescent tornadoes bursting from outcropping quartz reefs, and a high rate of demonic possessions in the Maryborough township. In 1877 alone, 2 people per day were turning to the dark side of the force, and between 1868 and 1900, there were 891 lightsaber-related injuries reported. While the mines were operational, there was considerable public concern that entities from the Twilight Zone were taking over respectable positions in the community, such as local politics and university lecturing positions. There is some speculation that this is still happening today, but that the entities are more interested in federal politics. Geology. The dominant rock type is Ordovician shales and sandstones of turbiditic origin, which are intruded by Devonian granites in places and overlain by tertiary basalts in some areas. Fossilized occurrences of what can only be called fire sprites are found within the basalt. None other than the famous geologist Baragwanath, 1920 himself, classed these beings as invertebrate hominids belonging to Australopithecus luciferus. Jurassic lamprifier dikes intrude the Ordovician sediments, often with associated fissure veins, stockwork veins, and of course, pelvis-popping hauntings. The mineralogy of the quartz veins is mainly quartz sericite with minor gold, galena, and ectoplasm. Where gold occurs as fine disseminations in purple shales, which lack quartz veins, there seems to be only minor paranormal activity and a total lack of ectoplasm in the shale matrix. A typical thin section of an auriferous quartz vein would show 70% quartz, 10% sericite, 20% ectoplasm, 5% interstitial vortexes, presumably leading to the twilight zone, 1% galena, and minor gold. Note how the percentages add up to 106%, which is an effect unique to the Maryborough goldfields, although unsubstantiated claims from South Africa claim that similar thin sections from the Witwatersrand goldfield add up to infinity percent. The geology of the Twilight Zone. Due to the fact that the Twilight Zone seems to have impinged itself on the Maryborough area, a brief description of the geology of the Twilight Zone is essential in order to fully understand what is happening at Maryborough. The Twilight Zone is composed of 3 main rock types. 1. An ectoplasmic ruby emerald diamond schist, which seems to be sedimentary in origin. The main process of erosion deposition of rocks is the wind, with superheated phosphorescent tornadoes being responsible for this rock type. 2. A hyperdimensional limestone, which unfortunately cannot be mapped along a planar surface, i.e. planet surface, since outcrops of rock are dotted throughout the atmosphere, seeming to be hanging in midair, although this is just an illusion. The outcrops hanging in midair are joined along the 4th spatial dimension. 3. The inhabitants themselves, not including the insubstantial beings, are silicon-based, and therefore villages of these beings are classed as a rock type. Thin sections of these beings reveal them to be essentially chalcedony. After some debate, the natives have been classed as sedimentary. The area was mapped by the Geological Survey of the Twilight Zone, and a map was supplied by a demon from the Twilight Zone who defected to our universe after infiltrating into a position of respect at a local university. 11. The physical laws in the Twilight Zone are radically different than our own. The electromagnetic force is much weaker there, and any human venturing into the Twilight Zone would probably disintegrate as their atomic structure fell to pieces. This casts doubt as to whether the popular TV series The Twilight Zone is actually based on a miner's personal experiences at Maryborough. The much denser silicon-based life forms seem to be able to survive as well as the insubstantial poltergeists, etc. There were a number of sophisticated tests used to identify rock samples in the Twilight Zone. The hyperdimensional limestone was very reactive, and bottles of lysergic acid diethylamide, LSD, were carried by field assistants for use on the limestone, which fizzed ferociously when in contact with the substance, as did the field assistants who drank their acid bottles for medicinal purposes. However, backup pedal-powered stomach pumps for use in the field overcame this problem by using gastric juices for limestone identification. Plato, 403 BC. 12. The matter-energy equation of Einstein is equal mc3 in the Twilight Zone, making any nuclear wars undesirable since they are 300,000 times more powerful than those in our universe. There are records which show that an ancient uranium deposit naturally enriched in U-235 underwent natural fission underground and unfortunately blasted the Twilight Zone inside out and into the center of the nearest star. This is analogous to hanging a pair of underpants made from antimatter on the clothesline and having bird shit made from matter hit them. There is a hell of an explosion, and next thing you know, you're in orbit around Neptune. A similar affect is observed if one enters a camera shop, systematically hits each camera with a sledgehammer, and then inquires to the proprietor as to whether any tea cakes are for sale. Also, 1 + 1 before in the Twilight Zone. Explanations. No one currently claims to know what is happening at Maryborough. The fact that paranormal activities and ectoplasm seem to be restricted to auriferous quartz reefs seems to suggest a link between gold and paranormal activity. Perhaps all ghost sightings and poltergeists are hydrothermal in origin, like a porphyry copper deposit? Although it is not proven, many workers now accept that the quartz veins tap into the subterranean throne room of the demigod Mandragore, known to the ancient Romans to be the god of defecating dogs. Psychic energy mixed in with silica-rich solutions migrate from the demigod's subterranean throne room to the surface, resulting in ectoplasmic quartz reefs. Geochemical studies have shown that the source of the gold is most likely to be the demigod's treasure vaults adjacent to the throne room. Despite this theory having no evidence to back it up, there are some unusual facts which seem to lend it some weight. The first is a diary of a miner that mentions his discovery of a subterranean lake of ectoplasm, a huge lake of what looks like ectoplasm, probably seeping up through the rocks below. Something caused the miner to shit his pants and pass out after this, but the message is clear enough. This same miner was also said to have found a large, perfectly clear quartz crystal weighing 2 tons with a fluid inclusion about 2.4 cubic meters in size in the center, containing a live demon. He sold it to a collector for $1.5 million. Baragwanath, 1920, who is probably better known for his work on artificial intelligence using computers based on the mind of a jelly baby that resulted in psychotic robots that destroyed half of the Allen's Lolly factory than he was in geology, has stated his opinion that the quartz veins acted as sewer pipes carrying psychic sewerage from underground. Experiments in the 1890s have shown that ancient rites worshipping Mandragore have increased average gold grades by 30%, and by miners regularly wearing flared trousers, a bull ring through the nose, and a human skull as a necklace production has soared by as much as 50%. Modesty, however, has prevented researchers holding orgies to increase production. though no doubt such wild, drunken, and licentious festivities and revelry would indeed have a positive effect on mine production. Deep drilling has failed to reach the source of the gold. 2 drill holes intersected Martian rocks at a depth of 524 meters, indicating that the drill rods passed through a rip in the fabric of the space-time continuum and emerged on Mars. Future drilling programs have been abandoned. Conclusion. It cannot be denied that 2 facts alone have been instrumental in our understanding of the Maryborough goldfields. The last mine in the Maryborough area closed in 1954, 2201 AD in Trinary, which almost coincides with the Roswell incident in New Mexico, USA, where a UFO supposedly crashed. And maybe even more astounding is that the pyramids of Egypt were built on the birthday of the discoverer of the Maryborough goldfields. This could mean either of 2 things. A. King Tutankhamun of ancient Egypt was a gold prospector, traveled to Maryborough, had a love child there who discovered the goldfield in 1854, got a lift back to Egypt in a UFO, and built the pyramids one Sunday afternoon with the help of aliens who later crashed at Roswell. B. The whole thing is a quantum mechanical interference pattern, similar to that seen by a constipated person. Note that Model A is referred to as the epigenetic model, and Model B is referred to as the syngenetic model. In layman's terms, this means that underpants made from antimatter should not be hung on the clothesline, people with leprosy should not play Twister, and that hamburgers bought from cannibals almost always contain low-quality meat. References Blyton E., 1971, The Faraway Tree, Allen and Unwin, London, 92p. Venkman P., 1990, Ghostbusters Picture Book, Macmillan, London, 21p. Anderson K.J., 1995, Star Wars, Tales from Mos Eisley Cantina, Bantam Books, London. February 1991, Australian Penthouse Limited Edition, Penthouse Publications, London. Baragwanath, 1920, Investigations into the Possibility of Jelly Babies Possessing a Consciousness. In Vandenberg A.H.M., ed., The Intelligence Quotients of Sentient Boiled Sweets. Geological Survey of Victoria, Melbourne, pp. 100-206. 101 Anon, 1982, Geology of the Twilight Zone, Geological Survey of the Twilight Zone. Plato, 400 BC, Going Off Like a Vietnamese-Owned Boarding Kennel. Geological Survey of Greece, Athens. Plato, 401 BC, Going Off Like a Jaffa in Hyperspace. Geological Survey of Greece, Athens. Plato, 402 BC, Going Off Like a Doorknob in a Packet of Roofing Nails. Geological Survey of Greece, Athens. Plato, 403 BC, Going Off Like a Pedal-Powered Stomach Pump. Geological Survey of Greece, Athens. Plato, 404 BC, Going Off Like a Nuclear-Powered Toothpick. Geological Survey of Greece, Athens. Acknowledgements. I would like to thank the Tooth Fairy for her generous support and guidance in helping me complete this project, for helping plan the bank heist we did last week, and for helping me launder my share of the $22 million. Without the Tooth Fairy, this honors thesis would not have been possible.